Time at this point feels like a concept, only a number.
Hi. For the next week, I'm going to be eating, sleeping, working, and playing in virtual reality. Starting now.
So Jack, tell us about what did you do throughout the week? Like, what did you get bored at all? Or did you find yourself having stuff to do, and that kept you pretty busy?
Yeah, I was pretty worried about, getting bored at first. But what I try to do is just like take the regular schedule I had in life. I'm a very like schedule oriented person. If I deviate from the schedule in my mind, then I like to stick and know what I'm doing each day. So I try to take each block, like waking up in the morning, sort of expelling some energy, cooking breakfast, then going into the office. I just tried to replace each of those steps with something I could do in VR. So that became, like opening up a virtual workout game and then cooking actual food and then eating. And then instead of going to an office, it would be, a virtual office. So I found throughout the week, I kind of knew what I was doing at each step. But when the weekend rolled around, and obviously one doesn't work on the weekend usually, so there were a few points where I just kind of had everything at the fingertips. Like when you have a VR headset, you can go anywhere. You can fly a spaceship, or you can, watch a movie in a little movie theater. So it was like having all of these options, but not
Mm-hmm.
really wanting to do any of them. So that was kind of an interesting point to find oneself in at certain points. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
So one of the things that I'm wondering is, and you sort of touch upon it on your video, is the social aspect. Like your video actually got me to try VR, and I was afraid to try it because I thought it would be too addictive. Like all technology is, and it will like make you very antisocial. But I found that it's actually made me be on electronics less, and then when you're on it, So I guess just how did how did it hit you socially? Your
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, great question. It was I was worried about being like isolated. Um that was kind of one of the tests of the experiment is like what are the three things that a human needs? It's like in my opinion it's after the necessities are covered, food, water, shelter, it's like community, maybe something inner, whether it be spiritual or just, the inner landscape, mental, um, and sort of like a drive. So I found that that specific community need was met with VR, and I'm sure all of you are aware of it, but like, on the outside, when a new technology rolls around, it sort of holds the sort of the baggage of being an antisocial device, right? Sort of the whatever it be, common generality of a technology that it's isolating and antisocial, but VR is almost like the opposite. It's connecting us. So it was really nice to kind of really build a community and meet some friends that are long lasting in that week.
Hey Jax, first congratulations! Like what you did was amazing, and that's I think one of the most important moments for VR. So
Thank you.
congrats on that. I have two questions. The first one is after you spend the whole week in VR, how much time did it take you to say I want to get back into VR? Like one day, 1 week. The second is, did you ever lose notion of reality in the sense that you thought that while you were in VR that week, that everything, what you see through the headset was your only reality, or you were always conscious that there was an outside world, and that even if the experience are super immersive, yes, there's an outside world.
Yeah, great questions. Thanks. What was the first one again? I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, how much time did it take you to get back on
Oh,
VR?
right. Yeah, so after taking off the headset, I basically just like unplugged all of my electronics, cleaned my house, drove to my friend's house, got my dog, and then just went to the park, like outside for a couple hours. So I just, completely turned off everything and experienced the physical world. After that, it was pretty much like a day where I kind of knew I had to start like the edit on the documentary, so I kind of forced myself to go back into VR, and get some extra shots that were needed. But it wasn't like a hard thing to go back. Yeah, yeah, it was pretty quick.
Awesome.
In terms of losing reality, I was definitely kind of worried about that aspect, like being so immersed. So what I tried to do is kind of like give myself some landmarks, some flags, some flag posts, or ways to help kind of keep my mental state balanced. So meditation actually really helped with that, because it was like checking in to the inner state, realizing that there's like the inner life, the emotions, the thoughts that are separate from the exterior being both the virtual reality experience that you're seeing when you have the headset on and the actual physical world. So I found checking in regularly with that really helped kind of keep the grip on the digital reality and the physical reality.
Hey, I'm an old psychology professor. I'm actually an old man, and but my avatar is a young man. But anyway, I was sort of curious about, and you've addressed this a little bit, but I was sort of curious about the loneliness stuff again. Did you have any weird or strange thoughts sort of coming through your mind when you're by yourself, and knowing that you're sort of sitting there by yourself and it wasn't really reality when you were interacting with other avatars over long periods of time, or was that not something that happened to you?
Yeah, there was it's a great question. There was a night, I think it was like the Saturday night, so it must have been like 5 days
I'll
in
be back.
that
I'll do a 2-week version of this.
Good luck, man. I wish you the best of luck with that. There was a night, I think it was, yeah, I was playing Skyrim VR, and I was super immersed in like this medieval world. And I'm interacting with these NPCs, getting quests, and going through lines of dialogue. And my mind was so immersed in it. There was like a point where I was like, okay, wait, I'm still standing in my living room. It was like the presence that one felt in the interior headset sort of overpowered the presence that one felt in the exterior headset, if that makes sense. But
Sure, yeah.
it wasn't a sense of loneliness. It was just a realization of being so immersed in a game. And that,
Yeah.
I think that it's hard to think of a different technology that's rolled around that provides that level, where anywhere one looks, they're immersed. So that's interesting.
Yeah, a real quickie follow-up here.
Awesome.
I really enjoyed your YouTube video, and it was really cool. I sent it to my son, and also sent it to some other colleagues. Most of them are retired now, like me. But the feedback I got from some of these folks was, do you think this guy had any difficulty readjusting to reality afterwards? And you've addressed that a little bit. Did you have any difficulty with your sleep at all? Did you have problems differentiating between waking up and still being involved with non-reality?
Well,
Yeah, great question. No, I actually, by the end of the experiment, my sleep schedule was completely off. I think my sort of circadian rhythm was way out of whack. I think I got like 2 hours of sleep out of 48, and I was still wide awake. But when reintegrating back for the first day, I fell asleep much, earlier than I usually do. And after that, it was pretty smooth sailing. Yeah, I was very thankful that the reintegration was very smooth.
So yeah, as everyone's been saying, loved your videos, absolutely amazing. But my question is, during your entire week in VR, did you ever have any points where you were just like, I give up, I want to quit? At any points, did you think about quitting or anything?
Yeah, there was a point in the second day, and I relate this more to streaming, being watched 24/7. It started to kind of get to me, like I was constantly checking the numbers, constantly checking chat, and like seeing what people are saying about just me, living life. It was very odd. And at that point, I was kind of like, okay, I'm kind of over this. I just kind of wanted to shut it down. Thankfully, I had a couple friends that were like messaging me on Discord and kind of giving me encouragement. But it was interesting. It was like feeling this emotion of wanting to leave, but being aware of the emotion, just watching emotion, because it was almost like separate from the experience that I was having in the headset. So it was an observation, and then after observing that emotion, the rest of the week was pretty smooth sailing, which I was very thankful for.
How do you think that your experience is pushing VR forward? Because this was an experiment and you learned a lot in the process. How do you think it's going to really push forward from what you learned? How are we going to benefit?
So what I'm hoping is that it will provide a easy way for someone to understand what VR is. The goal was, to spend a week, that's cool. It wasn't really to break a record, like, oh yeah, I spent, a week straight. It was more to go into the unknown and try to bring back something that the average Joe could just watch, 15 minutes and kind of maybe get a better understanding of what VR is. Because I feel like we're in this huge transition state where there's so much innovation happening on both the hardware and the developer side, but it's really hard to kind of understand what that innovation is and how it can relate to all of these different industries. So I'm hoping it just provides an easy way.
So what's your best advice to them? What advice do you have for the industry?
I would say that, whatever industry one finds themselves in, the passion that they have, I think, can be a new voice can be found in that specific industry with VR and AR technology. Whether it be medical, whether it be architecture, education, gaming, entertainment, there's a way to translate that industry into VR and really bring innovation to that specific category. So that's my hope, at least.
So my question is, looking back at this experience now, a couple weeks later, is there anything you would change to have made it easier on yourself, or are you pretty pleased with the amount of difficulty that it presented in a way?
Yeah, great question. I think I probably maybe would have had some outside help in the physical world. It's kind of a pain, like cooking in the headset, showering in the headset. I think having some outside help would have helped. I also would have liked to see a little more like bio data, or maybe some input from like more professionals, maybe check-ins before and after. So I hope, the next person that takes on the challenge maybe does that. Yeah. Great question. Thanks.
I'll shower like this, work like this, exercise like this, and sleep like this. Virtual reality is like standing in your living room and going to a new place. Pass-through is being in virtual reality but seeing a low-quality image of your room. I can take 5 seconds to switch headsets. I've also blacked out all my windows so I can't see day or night pass. This is quite possibly the dumbest thing I've ever done, but welcome to a week in the future.